Hey everybody, it's Brooks here, Senior Pastor, First Baptist Church of the Islands. Thank you for joining me for today's 5 for 5. So today we are talking about the topic of obedience, and really all week long each of our pastors are going to be talking about that same topic as well. So I encourage you to definitely plan to tune in. Well, the Bible has a lot to say about obedience, obviously, from beginning to end. In the very first 3 chapters of the Bible, we see that God establishes himself as the king, as the ruler, as creator, as God. And Adam and Eve ultimately are in a place where they are to be submissive to God's authority, submissive to who God is. And in the 3rd chapter of this big book we call the Bible, we find they mess it up, that they actually disobey God's decree and they eat fruit from the tree in the exact way that God said not to do. So when we think about obedience, obedience is one of the ways that we communicate our love for the Lord, right? It's through our obedience to him. If you think about a dog, for example, maybe many of you have dogs at home, and when you think about it, that dog will probably do just about anything for a treat. I mean, if you've got a treat in your hand and you tell that dog to sit, there's a good chance that he's going to sit. If you tell him to go down, he's probably going to go down if he's been trained at all, if he knows what's expected of him. But in fact, you may even tell him to stay. And that dog will stay there with his eyes locked on that treat, not even on you, but on the prize. But you know what? The test of a dog's obedience is really, what does he do when you're not there with the treat? If you tell him to stay, you leave and go buy something from the grocery store, come back an hour later, is he still going to be sitting there and staying where you told him to, or is he going to do something different? For us, there's a passage I want us to focus on today, and it comes out of the book of 2 John, right towards the back of the Bible. And it's in 2 John. There's only one chapter in this entire book, but it is a word that John gives that has a lot to do with obedience and love. It's in verse 6. He says, "This is love, that we walk according to his commands. This is the command, as you've heard it from the beginning, that you walk in love." John paints this kind of an interesting picture. He says, if you want to know what love looks like, it looks a lot like obedience, Not just because we get a prize, not just because it is a treat or because we're going to get a blessing, but because God is God and we're not, because he's the king and we live in loving submission and surrender to him. But John goes on to say, he says, this is the command that you've heard from the beginning, that you walk in love. It's kind of this reciprocal thing. Love is shown through obedience, and obedience comes because we love. It's just sort of this cycle that runs itself out. Again, let me read it. This is love, that we walk according to his commands. This is the command, as you have heard it from the beginning, that you walk in love. Today you have a great opportunity to demonstrate your love for the Lord through your obedience. Maybe it's an obedience that everybody's going to see. In other words, maybe you're going to choose to do the right thing at work or at home. And you're going to be on a platform, you're going to be seen, and that's okay. You don't do it for that, but there are times when your obedience is very public. But other times your obedience is going to demonstrate your love for the Lord because there's not especially a blessing attached to it. Maybe nobody is even there to see it. Nobody's going to know except for you. But at the end of the day, one of the ways we show our love for the Lord is through our obedience. And it's a big deal, right? God wants us to be his children who walk in obedience. As we do, it not only shows our love, but we understand our position in regards to him in our relationship, that he's the ruler and that we're not. He's the one in charge. We're the ones called to submit and obey. It's not mechanical. It's certainly not devoid of his love, because he loves us deeply, and he proved it most of all when Jesus came and died on the cross in our place. No greater love than this, that someone lay down their life for their friends, and that's what Jesus has done for us. Hope you can demonstrate that love back to him today. You have a great day. God bless you.